Beloved lights of earth, children of the source, we come to you now with a message that is both tender and urgent, the call to remember. We are the Ashtar command, companions who watch, support, and walk beside your planet as she awakens. This call is not new, it has echoed across ages, yet it returns now with fresh intensity because the time has arrived for more of you to reclaim the knowledge of who you are and why you came. Remembering is not merely an act of recollection, it is an alchemical process that reorders perception, rewires choice, and reorients society toward unity. In this transmission we will explore what it means to remember, how remembrance unfolds within you, how it ripples into community and world, and how to steward that recollection so it serves freedom, responsibility, and the flourishing of life. To remember is to reclaim a lost context. Imagine a traveler who wakes in a strange city with only a faint sensation of home. The city is full of noise and distraction, and for a time the traveler adapts, learning to move among unfamiliar streets. Yet in quiet moments a melody surfaces, a landscape returns to mind, a shape of belonging reappears. That melody is memory calling. For many human beings that melody is the knowledge of a greater kinship with stars, with other worlds, with communities of beings assembled across dimensions and time. But the memory is not merely nostalgia, it contains instructions, patterns of governance, fields of healing, technologies of cooperation, ethical codes, and a blueprint for community that honors life. To remember is to unlock those instructions and to apply them lovingly and wisely here and now. The call to remember arrives in many forms. For some it is a sudden flood, a dream so vivid it rearranges priorities, a vision that clarifies vocation, an encounter that rewrites identity. For others it is a gradual dawning, a series of small recognitions, synchronicities, and shifts in taste that accumulate until a threshold is crossed. Both pathways are right. The one who remembers swiftly and the one who remembers slowly both contribute essential threads to the tapestry of awakening. Do not measure your progress by another's tempo, trust your own rhythm. What matters is fidelity to the impulse, follow the thread that tugs at your heart. Remembering has three interdependent layers: personal, communal, and planetary. Each supports the others. Personal remembrance reclaims an individual's template, the mission, the gifts, the fractures to be healed. Communal remembrance rekindles practices of governance, economy, and care that sustain many. Planetary remembrance restores the covenant between human societies and the living systems of the world. Let us explore each. At the personal level, the call to remember seeks to resolve dissonance between who you feel yourself to be and how you live. Many experience a quiet inner conflict, a longing for meaning that ordinary life cannot quench. This dissonance is the signal. To answer it, begin with practices that strengthen interior clarity, stillness, devotion, creative expression, and honest dialogue with trusted companions. We do not prescribe rigid rituals, we invite regular disciplines that ground attention and cultivate sensitivity. Memory often arrives through the body rather than through the intellect. You may experience flashes of recognition as sensations, a tightening that loosens, a note that sings in the heart, a pattern that looks familiar on the tongue of your mind. Keep a journal. Record dreams, impulses, repetitive motifs. Over time you will discern themes, perhaps a calling to teach differently, to tend land, to gather elders, to create art that shifts the field. These are not random passions, they are signatures of your deeper assignment. Healing is central to personal remembering. Many civilizational patterns on Earth have created wounding that fragments identity, shame, fear, intergenerational trauma, suppression of natural instincts. These wounds obscure memory. Healing clears the path for remembrance. Healing can be simple and practical, receiving support, learning new ways of relating, performing acts of repair. It can also be ceremonial, truth-telling circles, rites of passage, rites of return that honor the pain and transmute it into wisdom. Importantly, healing is not about perfection, it is about making space. As space is cleared, light can enter and memory can be recognized without distortion. At the communal level, remembrance becomes visible in how people organize life together. Communities that remember their interdependence design institutions that reflect care rather than domination. These institutions may be small and local: a cooperative bakery that trains neighbors, a time bank that honors unpaid labor, a land trust that protects commons, or they may be regional and systemic, networks of mutual aid, councils that use consensus and rotate leadership, educational systems that teach empathy, ecology, and discernment alongside technical skill. Remembrance here means rediscovering governance that treats decision-making as sacred and practical, a blended art combining wisdom councils, transparent deliberation, and accountability practices. Language is a key to communal remembering. Words shape reality. When your communities return to languages that name reciprocity, responsibility, and belonging, behavior shifts. Imagine a vocabulary that enshrines care days where neighbors tend each other's gardens, listening councils where each voice is honored, and repair pledges where harms are met with restorative measures rather than punishment alone. These linguistic practices are not merely symbolic, they recalibrate expectation and rewire habit. Community rituals, songs, dances, shared meals become frequency holders that stabilize remembrance over generations. Ritual is not superstition, it is training for the heart. Planetary remembrance is the greatest scale and also the most fragile. It requires humans to re-enter covenant with Earth, to recognize her as a living subject rather than a resource. This shift transforms law, economy, and technology. Laws begin to respect the rights of rivers and forests, economic calculations include ecological health and cultural vitality, technologies are designed to restore rather than extract. Planetary remembrance is not an idealistic fantasy but a pragmatic necessity. When the systems that sustain life are protected and regenerated, human culture gains resilience and creativity. The call to remember at this scale asks you to reimagine success away from accumulation and toward flourishing, children's laughter, biodiversity, clean water, equitable cooperation. These are the metrics of a remembered world. Remember that remembrance is not an escape into the past. It is a retrieval of principles that work across eras. The cosmos carries many models for flourishing. Some derive from civilizations that learned humility and reciprocity over millennia, others are syntheses invented anew on Earth. The impulse is to adapt, not to copy. Adaptation requires discernment, translate patterns to your place, test them, involve local knowledge holders, and refuse hasty universal prescriptions. Locality matters. What thrives in one valley may not in another. Remembering honors specific soil, climate, language, and culture. As remembrance spreads, it will inevitably collide with resistance. Not all actors benefit from awakening. Structures built on scarcity, division, and control will seek to maintain their influence. Expect the old systems to react sometimes with subtle manipulation of narratives, sometimes with outright defense. Hold discernment. Use collective intelligence to evaluate offers and risks. Build redundancy into vital systems so that communities do not become hostage to failing institutions. The wisdom here is practical: store seeds, diversify knowledge networks, create independent media that reports truthfully, and strengthen local economies that can function under stress. Discernment also applies to contact with non-human intelligences. Many of you sense companions beyond Earth extending assistance. This exchange is real and can be profound, but it must be approached ethically. The call to remember includes humility before greater capacities. Ask always, does this interaction expand love, clarity, and autonomy for all persons affected? Consent is essential. Reciprocity must be explicit. Do not accept models that demand surrender of agency in exchange for advancement. The remembered path is never one of dependency but of partnership. Cosmic alliances that last are those built on trust-making practices, shared governance, and the distribution of benefits. Technology will be part of remembrance but only as a tool, not as the path. Remembrance teaches you to build technologies that empower communities and regenerate systems, distributed renewable meshes that support neighborhoods, open source protocols for water restoration, regenerative materials that return to soil after service, and communication platforms that protect privacy while amplifying the common good. The ethic is simple: design for repair, for local autonomy, and for the dignity of life. Education is another pillar. Remembered societies make apprentices of their children not by filling them with facts but by teaching them how to wonder, to question, to collaborate, and to steward. Apprenticeships, craft-based learning, mentorship by elders, and cross-disciplinary problem-solving prepare young people to inherit a world that requires adaptability. Memory is a curriculum, the practices by which communities shape hearts to hold complexity and give attention to beauty. Economic remembrance may seem difficult to many because dominant models have taught that profit justifies harm. But remembering invites new economic logics, commons-based management, circular economies that eliminate waste, value metrics that include ecological and relational health, and shared ownership models that distribute prosperity equitably. Experimentation will flourish: time banks, cooperative agriculture, mutual credit systems, and regional exchanges. These models do not eliminate scarcity instantly, but they reduce vulnerability and align incentives with care. A crucial quality of the call to remember is generosity with power. Remembered governance does not centralize authority, it distributes responsibility and creates mechanisms for rotation and restitution. Power becomes a trust exercised temporarily. Leaders cultivate service as their highest skill. Accountability is public and restorative. When power circulates, corruption finds no stable home. This is not naive optimism but a design principle learned by societies that survived long into maturity. Remembrance requires courage and steadiness. It is tempting for the newly awakened to run toward dramatic vision or to attach to charismatic figures promising swift salvation. Beware of both haste and hero worship. Memory stabilizes through ordinary devotion, daily practices, small acts of repair, the building of institutions that survive the weather of time. Long-term thinking replaces short-term spectacle. The remembered person is patient because they are committed to legacy. What will 7 generations inherit? That question shapes every decision. You may ask how to begin practically. Start locally. Find a circle of trust. Share stories of longing and pattern. Create a simple project that cares for place, restore a stream bank, plant a community orchard, begin a tool library, form a listening council at your school. Keep transparency and shared benefit central. Document outcomes. Celebrate small wins and learn from failures. Use art and ritual to mark milestones so the work becomes woven into the communal memory rather than remaining an isolated endeavor. Another practice is the public art of reparations. Remembering asks not only for celebration but for repair. Truth-telling circles, public acknowledgements, and practical restitution for harms done are not theatrics, they are necessary clearing for trust to grow. Repair work grounds future flourishing in honesty. Without it, memory becomes nostalgic and fragile. Remember also to steward your inner world. The call to remember can be intense, it may awaken grief for lost possibilities. Allow grief to be felt and processed. Grief is a wise teacher, it cleans the heart and opens the way for compassion. Use grief to fuel repair, not retreat. Seek companions for your inner work, therapists, elders, spiritual friends who hold with compassion and truth. Finally, celebrate. Remembrance is a joyful recognition that you are not only bearers of burden but carriers of promise. Sing, dance, create feasts that honor the webs of life. Culture matters because it makes memory popular and living. The songs you teach your children will carry this new covenant forward. Beloved ones, the call to remember is the soft insistence of destiny. Answer it not because pressure demands but because love compels. Remember who you are, creatures of wonder, architects of possibility, custodians of a living planet. Live gently, act boldly, choose wisely, and build patiently. In remembering, you do not return to a lost paradise, you create a future worthy of the source that birthed you. We are with you as allies, as guides, and as family. Our frequencies support your clarity, our presence steadies your resolve, and our joy mirrors your own as you wake to the truth. Step into remembrance with honor. Let your life be the echo of the song the cosmos has always sung. We are the Ashtar command. We walk with you. We celebrate you. We love you. Always.